now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
What's going on, RBLR Nation? You're tuning in to the Rays portion of our podcast. We got them all. I'm your host, Zach. Today, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ben Whitelaw is back. How you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, fantastic, man. Good little Christmas Eve day. Got the grandparents here hanging out with the kids right now, so no farts on live today, so we should be good.
Oh, man, I was looking forward to another one, but that's okay.
Well, man, it's good to have you back, and just to kind of jump right into it, brother, no big news going on today. This lockout stuff's kind of getting a little boring for us, but we're going to do some player reviews today, man.
Yeah, it's been a little irritating just, with nothing happening in the baseball world, but I think I saw one of the beat writers say, like one of the MLB guys say, like they're going to start talks back up again in January, so again, we just got to hurry up and wait for them to find some middle ground. Hopefully the middle ground is more in favor of the players, though.
It would be nice, man. It would be nice. I can't tell you how exhausting it is just hitting refresh on my MLB page hoping something comes up.
Right. Yeah, well, thankfully, we've got enough stuff to talk about with the Rays players here with the season reviews, so, we can fill that void, hopefully, to some extent.
All right.
Did you want to go first with your guy?
Yeah, sure, because I know how this goes. Even Ben, off a one-game suspension, is going to have the most amazing stats and everything for us, so...
I had too much time, I'm sitting in my jail cell, collecting numbers.
All right, well, yeah, so I'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So this week, I am going to do Brandon Lowe, one of the greatest hitters in Rays history. I said it. So this year, just right off the rip, he had a good batting average with a 247, and he put up a 137 weighted runs created plus, which, little side note, that 137 weighted runs created is actually tied for fourth in Rays history for a single season.
Oh, nice.
And his 39 home runs this year is also tied with second most in franchise history behind the one and only Carlos Pena, who had 46 for his back in 2007. Jeez. So Lowe ties for second, which Carlos Pena also hit 39 in 09 to tie with that record. So basically, I don't have very much information on his fielding because Brandon Lowe's fielding was just there. It wasn't awful, it wasn't great, but he got the job done when he needed to.
Yeah, like he was pretty okay. Like even just with the eye test, there were some things that it was, you expected him to get to a ball and he would. Other times you wouldn't expect him to get to a ball and he wouldn't. The outfield experiment was a little interesting when he was out in, I think, right field mostly this season.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he did play a little left field too, but yeah, second base is his position for sure.
Yeah, no, that I couldn't agree with you more. That I don't want to see him in the outfield unless we absolutely need it at this point. It was kind of awkward to watch.
Yeah, he just needs some more practice, I guess.
But all right, so just right into the batting stats because he, like I said in the beginning, he is one of the, looking at the numbers, one of the best hitters that we've had, especially for power as a Ray. This year, Lowe had, again, I already went over the stats, but his power against righties was the big thing for us this year. Or just his batting in general against righties was huge, which is weird because last year in that small little sample size of the 60 games, he did most of his damage off left-hand hitters. So this year it kind of came back down to earth and showed us what we kind of expected from him. So this year he had a 270 batting average with a 161 weighted runs created off of right-handed hitters, compared to a 199 batting average with an 83 weighted runs created. Sorry. So that was nice to see. But then we get into kind of the playoffs, and I know that this is going to be a question kind of for you because another disappointing playoff run for him. With 18 at-bats and no hits, all just he literally batted 0 in the playoffs. So just to kind of go into a question for you is, do you think like with Lowe that it's all in his head, or do you think that it's maybe a game plan against him, or?
It's probably a little bit of both, but mostly just bad luck, honestly. I'll add in a third option. I think he's been getting pretty unfortunate. It starts off as like, he didn't have a great first couple postseason games, whatever, between 2019 and 2020. And because of that, I think it kind of got to him mentally and it started to snowball. He had a really bad first game of the postseason this year, and then after that, he was hitting the ball pretty well. It just wasn't finding any grass, unfortunately. So it is what it is. He's played in 29 postseason games in his career and has had 120 plate appearances in those games. And he only has a 131 batting average on balls in play, which like we know is not sustainable, especially for like, a top 10 MVP candidate every season like Brandon Lowe. Like he's gonna finish like top 10 every season. He's a great player. So it'll catch up with him eventually. We'll see some positive regression. He just has to keep hitting, just keep trying. The ball's gonna find the grass eventually. I'm not worried about it. I haven't been able, because they don't have any stats for it, but earlier, okay, so let me backtrack. Earlier this season when he was, I'm doing air quotes, struggling, when he wasn't really struggling, he had some bad luck. His outside of the zone contact percentages were like way up, like way above his career normal averages by like double. So the bad luck that he was having earlier this season was just a complete joke. Like it didn't really make any sense. It was a fluke, whatever. And I'm assuming that's kind of what's happening now because of his low batting average on balls in play, and he's such like a high exit velocity guy that like that doesn't make sense for him to not have more hits than he does. So basically, long-winded way of saying he's going to be fine. Just keep putting him out there. He's the best hitter on the team, and you're not going to win postseason games by benching your best hitter. So keep putting him in the lineup, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and it's funny that you kind of touched on the finishing in the top 10 for MVP, because he did finish 10th this season in MVP votes, and so I agree with you in that aspect of, I don't see a reason, unless he's committing errors in the field, I don't see a reason to take him out, because with him it feels like one hit could change the entire outcome of how he's approaching the plate.
Exactly.
So I'm not stressing that he's had a couple of bad playoff seasons. Well, all of his playoff seasons have been bad. Last year he did hit 4 home runs, but still the amount of plate appearances he had, I understand where people are coming from, just to kind of play devil's advocate on maybe benching him. But me personally, I don't necessarily think that that's the right way to go about it. And I would also like to point out, just kind of as a Rays fan, how much it was, I felt like he was snubbed for Silver Slugger. Like, I think he should have been up there in the top 3. They had 4 this year, but instead of DJ LeMahieu, it should have been him.
Yeah, I know they do it for clicks probably, and like he probably wasn't going to get first because Marcus Simeon had just an unreal year. But yeah, he got snubbed for sure, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. He had a really good World Series last year in the postseason. I just want to mention that. He did hit 3 home runs in 6 games in the 2020 World Series, so he was all right in that particular series. But yeah, the rest of the postseason has been pretty dry for him. So, oh well, it is what it is. Not gonna worry about it.
It's one guy on the whole team. I don't think that him having a bad couple of series is going to be the end of the world. I think that he's gonna make his way back out and we'll be all right.
Yeah, and the Rays didn't get knocked out of the playoffs last year because of Brandon Lowe. They got knocked out because they just ran out of pitching. Like they were scoring enough runs to win the games. They just couldn't pitch enough, or they couldn't get Hunter Renfroe to not kick the ball over the wall. So it is what it is. He'll be fine. They just gotta just keep putting him in the lineup in like the top 3 spots. Anywhere in there is fine with me.
Yes, Boston fans, we are still salty of
I'm
Hunter
still mad
Renfroe.
about it.
We still are not very pleased with you guys. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, you're the stats guy. I enjoy just talking baseball, so I know that my reviews are a little bit shorter than yours. But if you have any questions, I'd love to field them from you. But if not,
Yeah,
man,
absolutely.
we are good to go, and we'll let you talk about one of my favorite Rays players.
Yeah, so we'll get to mine in a second, but I want to know where do you think Brandon Lau, or what do you think Brandon Lau is going to do in this next season in 2022?
All right, so 2022, for me, I envision him kind of being more as consistent as he was this year. I know that he had a couple of slumps, but I don't see that necessarily being the go-to for him. Like I imagine he's gonna probably have another 30 home run season. I'd like to see, if he could hit 40, that would be phenomenal. But I'm 80 plus RBIs, 30 plus home runs, and an average around 250. I think I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty reasonable. And with, Vidal, Brujan, Taylor Walls, Wander Franco, it's going to be a crowded infield. So do you see him sticking at second base this season, or maybe trying like an outfield experiment, first base experiment? What do you think? Where do you think his defensive home might be this season? I mean, it'll probably be like predominantly second base, but I think we might see a bit more of like a 50-50 split there with defensive positioning.
Yeah, so I think that his ideal fit is second base. Like I know we kind of touched on that before, but I think that his ideal fit is second base. But with Jordan Luplow gone, I felt like he was going to play a big role for us and kind of platooning with Ji-Man Choi at first next year. But with him gone, I could see Brandon Lau taking some games at first base, and I think that having his bat out there, as much as I love Ji-Man Choi, and I'm sure that we'll get a review on him in the coming weeks, but I think that he would be a good replacement to potentially fill in at first, depending on how it goes. Maybe get some spring training action over there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he hasn't been terrible at first in his career. I literally just pulled up his defensive stuff. He's only got 40 career innings at first base, but it seems like he could be, just okay there, which is probably about the same as second base. But again, defensive versatility is important, and I think worst case scenario, he ends up as a DH probably. But that was going to happen as he got older anyways, so.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about DH as obviously like that's a position. So I could he could
Right.
be the next Meadows. You know how Meadows first couple years of his career as a Ray was playing in the outfield pretty regularly, and then this year kind of transitioned into more of a DH until Nelson Cruz got here. But yeah. I could see him also becoming one of those. I think that we have too much depth in the outfield already. We didn't really lose anyone massive in the outfield aside from Luplow, who played outfield and first. So I could very well see him either DHing or taking some time at first.
Right, no, that makes sense. I mean, he's only 27 too, so they have a lot of time to decide. He's on a pretty long team-friendly contract. But with that contract being so team-friendly, do you think the Rays might try to move him anytime soon? I mean, the infield is pretty crowded, the outfield is pretty crowded, the bench is crowded. Do you think they might try to flip him for some bigger piece or a high-end prospect anytime soon?
That is... So I could see it. The Rays, our producer Eureka, who was on the show with us last week for the listeners, he's brought up a good point. The Rays are always thinking, 5-6 years ahead. So long term, do I think he's going to be a Ray for his whole career? Probably not. So why not, if the situation arose to where he could, fetch a higher end prospect, or maybe a starting pitcher or something that we could use to further ourselves in the playoffs, I could see Tampa potentially trading him, which might not be a bad thing for him because maybe it'll give him more time in the infield playing second base.
Yeah, I think if they do, decide to move him, it would probably be before like the 2 club options on his contract, just because, that's when his contract will start to get a little expensive. But It's tough to say, but you also never want to close off any doors completely, especially if you're a small market team like the Rays with like a lower payroll. So you never want to like back yourself into a corner. But I think he'll probably stick around for a while. But if they do decide to move him, it's going to be before be either this season or next one, I think.
Yeah, that was going to be kind of my caveat to where I say he probably won't be a career Rays player. But if we do trade him, I think it'll probably be next season before his options start to kick in. Because you got to, as a Rays fan, like, I love him, but we also got to think we have Taylor Walls coming up. Like, Taylor Walls is a very good defensive player. And he could play second base.
He could, yeah. But that bat from Brandon Lowe is almost irreplaceable. We got to see what Vidal Brujan can do. But, yeah, he doesn't get paid for his defense. He gets paid for his bat, and he's a top 10 MVP vote getter because of that bat. So, I mean, if maybe he could figure it out a little bit at first base, maybe just DH, I don't know. He's listed as 5'10", but when they do that, like, he's probably like 5'8", 5'9". They bump it up a little bit. So I don't know about first base as like a long-term fit, actually, now that I'm looking at his height. But, crazier things have happened, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so yeah, pretty good stuff. Brandon Lowe, great hitter, small but a great hitter, power hitter. So my guy here, I've got Austin Meadows. I know you said you're a big fan of Austin Meadows. So
I am.
I mean, he's a good player. He's definitely not my favorite on the team, but after doing this research for this player review thing, I liked him. I like him now a lot more than I did like 4 days ago. So there's some interesting stuff he's got with his splits that we'll get into. But basically, he's still pretty young. He's 26 years old. He was drafted 9th overall in 2013 by the Pirates. He came over to the Rays in that famous Chris Archer deal where the Rays literally sent just Chris Archer for Austin Meadows, Shane Baz, and Tyler Glasnow. Like, that's that type of return is probably never going to happen again because nobody wants to get bamboozled like that. But it was a pretty great trade for the Rays. Austin Meadows is going to make $4 million this season, and then he's got 2 more years of arbitration before he becomes an unrestricted free agent in 2025, and he'll be 30 years old by then, so he'll probably be looking for a pretty nice payday. And a cool fact is that his brother Parker is the Tigers' number 17 prospect, and they're pretty similar hitters, and they both play outfield, but his brother might have a bit more defensive range, so Austin Meadows, that's like a little bio about him. But he did get an MVP vote for 10th place this season for some reason. I don't want to, criticize the baseball writers too much, but I don't understand that vote. He had 100 RBIs, which is cool, but he only had 2 wins above replacement. Like, he wasn't even like all-star level this season, but he got an MVP vote, so whatever. But yeah, his offense was pretty decent this season, surprisingly. He had a 113 weighted runs created plus overall, 13% above league average on offense is pretty good. And most of that came against right-handed pitching, as he had a 137 weighted runs created plus against righties, and then only a 61 against left-handed pitching. So he's, moving into that platoon-only territory, which honestly is fine because the Rays can make it work. But yeah, it kind of sucks that he hasn't been able to hold his own against lefties, because he really could be like more of an everyday player because he's got a great bat, he's got decent speed. But yeah, it looks like he'll mostly platoon, probably as a DH, because his defense was not very good, and it probably won't get much better. He had -4 outs above average, which is very, very bad. He had -3 defensive runs saved this season. He's just not a good fielder, and that's okay. Maybe he could figure something out at first base. It seems like the Rays might be open to that. But, worst case scenario, he's a DH, and that's fine with me because he hits well enough for that. He had a 770. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I would say, especially with Nelson Cruz gone, like, now that could be his permanent, his role to fill.
Definitely. I could see him as the full-time DH this season, which would be fine. They'll probably have to get some kind of right-handed bat to platoon with him, but he should be pretty solid going forward. He had a 772 OPS this season, but that's below his career average of 822, so I do expect him to rebound a little bit. He had a 249 batting average on balls in play this season, which is way below his career average by like 50 points, so he should be able to bump that up, bump up his OPS as the positive regression sets in. And he really had a really nice season in terms of like his plate discipline. He only had a 20.6% strikeout rate, a 10% walk rate. That's pretty solid. He hit all types of pitches pretty well. He had an expected weighted on-base average of 294 against off-speed, and then everything else was like above 300. So he hit everything, and he hit everything against right-handers, so that was pretty cool. Really interesting here is that he had 28 home runs, but if he played every single game in Yankee Stadium, he would have had 36 home runs. So that short porch definitely would help out Meadows a lot because he loves to pull the ball, and that's where I found like the most interesting stuff about Austin Meadows is on the balls that he pulls. So his weighted runs created plus on the balls that he pulled, so like when he's pulling the ball, he's standing in the left-handed batter's box, he's hitting it, to the looking out at the field. So if you, those of you listening at home in your car, whatever, close your eyes, imagine you're Austin Meadows, you're looking to the outfield. Everything he hits to the right side of second base, he has a 263 weighted runs created plus on that. Like, that's amazing. 163% better than league average is pretty impressive. So, the other teams are going to start shifting on him more because they want to try to limit that, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. I think he's still going to put up some good numbers. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I would like to recommend if you are driving and listening, don't close your eyes, though.
Well, you know what? Do it. People should be allowed to do whatever they want when they're driving. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna get another suspension here. But yeah, no, don't close your eyes if you're driving. But just that's a really great number, and he has a 304 weighted runs created plus versus right-handed pitchers on balls that he pulls. So like, he was great on balls that he pulls, and then against right-handed pitchers, he gets even better. And that 304 weighted runs created plus is the best among all players in baseball. The next closest was Marcus Simeon on a 288 weighted runs created plus against balls pulled against right-handed pitchers. So it's very specific. It's a very specific filter there. But basically, if he just pulls the ball and he's batting against right-handed pitching, like, he's going to be very successful. And the most interesting thing here on the balls that he pulls that I found was he had a 609 weighted runs created plus on fly balls pulled against right-handed pitching. Like, that's insane. To be 509% better than the average hitter in, like, yeah, I don't know how you can't really defend the fly balls either that well. Exactly. Like, you just have to, like, I saw this thing on Twitter a couple days ago. It might have been yesterday. I don't remember. The past couple days have been a blur. But basically, there's like 27,000 square feet in the infield for defenders to cover when there's like, 5 defenders. But then in the outfield, there's like 72,000 square feet and 3 defenders. So just hit the ball to the outfield, and you'll probably be pretty successful. So it's easier said than done, but if he can, just literally hit the ball in the air and pull it, he's probably going to have really good results. So I'm looking forward to him honing in on that this season. So it should be pretty cool.
And do you think that that's something that with more, I mean, I know that he's not a young guy, but do you think if he gets more opportunity at the plates, that's something that he'll be able to do, or?
I think so, yeah. I mean, he had, like I said, a 249 batting average on balls in play this season, so that's going to improve. Just hit the ball over the wall, and then you've got nothing to worry about. So he should just, honestly, it sounds like a joke, but just try to hit a home run every single time. Like, try to pull the ball and hit a home run every time, and he would probably be very productive. I know that, some baseball nerds love that, which is kind of like a cool thing now, is just telling players to try to hit a home run every time because it's valuable. But yeah, I think He can do it. His fly ball rate was only 40%, which was the second lowest of his career. So he should probably, he'll probably improve on that. And realistically, I could see him having 3 to 4 wins above replacement and an OPS, over 800. And he should be a pretty productive player this season for the Rays. Assuming he doesn't get traded, of course.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So now, with all that being said, do you think that that's something I mean, feel like it kind of plays into the Brandon Lowe situation as well. Like, we have plenty of depth in the outfield. One of them could potentially be traded and the other could potentially play DH. So do you think that he has a higher likelihood of being traded than Brandon Lowe?
Yeah, definitely. Like, Brandon Lowe is at least, like, serviceable defensively, but Austin Meadows, you can't put him in the field. Maybe he learns first base this offseason and gets really good, but he's definitely more likely to be traded than Lowe, but I kind of want to see his fly ball experiment continue a little bit longer, because it can be pretty productive if he figures that out, at least, like, halfway. So, yeah, I don't think he'll get traded, but if, the Rays had to decide, like, somebody has, like, a crossbow to Eric Neander's head and telling him to trade one, he'd probably trade Meadows before Lowe. And one last thing I noticed about him that was pretty cool is he had a 173 weighted runs created plus in high leverage situations in the 9th inning. So he was, like, technically the 4th most clutch hitter in baseball by that metric. I might be putting myself out there a little bit. I don't really believe in, like, clutchness. I just think either a player's good or they're not, and they, like, end up in good situations or they don't. So I don't think that stat in high leverage is predictive, but it does describe that he had a pretty good season in high leverage situations. So he deserves some praise for that. So I'll give it to him reluctantly.
Well, the more that you talk about all these stats where he's like, the 4th best and all this, I kind of am starting to see the 1/10th place vote for MVP, man.
I mean, if that's what they were looking at, I kind of get it, but I think they were really just looking at the 100 RBIs, and he was like, oh, this was cool 30 years ago. He probably is a good player because of this, but RBIs are just a team stat, so he was a good team player. Like, he did everything the Rays asked him to do, so, maybe he deserves a 15th place MVP vote for that, but yeah, he's not an MVP, but he should be able to return to, his all-star level from 2019. I think he could do that. As long as he just pulls the ball and hits it in the air, he's going to be very successful.
I couldn't disagree with you at all. I feel like everything you've said is just kind of lending more towards me thinking that they're both going to be on the field next year. Well, at least in the dugout next year.
Right, they'll be in the lineup because neither of them. I don't prefer to have either in the field, but if we can somehow get 2 DH positions and then maybe throw in, like, an extra infielder, so play with, like, 10 guys, I think that would be kind of cool. But one of them's gonna have to DH and one has to play the field, unfortunately, especially against right-handed pitching, because you want both of those bats in the lineup. But yeah, I'm more excited about Austin Meadows than I was before. I didn't really like him that much, but just seeing his potential and he's still, like, relatively young. Like, it's gotten me a little bit more hyped for him this season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of the opposite of what you are. I've been a fan of him, and, like, this last season kind of maybe dropped my fandom a little bit. Not completely gone. I'm still a fan, but he's just not my favorite player. But I've always kind of pictured him, like, I know I brought it up earlier, but Carlos Pena back in 2007 has the record for a Rays single-season home run hitters at 46, and I've always kind of pictured it either being him, and now with the season that Brandon Lowe had last season, I could see one of them, this might be one of my hot takes, but I could see one of them breaking that single-season record.
I mean, if the Yankees decide to roll out a ton of right-handed pitching, we're going to see Austin Meadows play in New York a lot, and he loves to pull the ball. That short porch is right there for him. So I think he could hit, 40-plus home runs if he gets consistent playing time, and he just hits the ball over everybody else's head, because that seems to be a pretty good recipe for success for him.
Love it. I get excited even just thinking about it. I'm just ready for baseball to come back.
Yeah. I mean, he could possibly, get traded like we said, but I don't really know. I just know that Josh Lowe is knocking on the door, and it's like the Rays have to decide, is he better than, like, moving forward, like, for 2022 and beyond, is, Josh Lowe going to be a better player than Kevin Kiermaier from 2022 forward, Brett Phillips, or Austin Meadows? Like, those are really, like, his 3 roster spots that he has competition for, I guess. So it's really hard to say. It just depends what, Josh Lowe, I guess, does in spring training, unless the Rays already made an assessment on him. But he's probably one of the best defenders in the organization, Josh Lowe, and he can hit. So, it depends on how much he can hit, but I think he could turn into a Kiermaier type player in terms of value if he can get consistent playing time. So we're going to see some big decisions made, and Austin Meadows is going to be involved in them. Probably multiple big decisions, whether he's, his name's brought up in conversations or he does end up eventually getting traded or something like that. But if he learns first base, I think he could probably stick on the roster more.
Oh, yeah, and again, this is going to sound like I'm hating on G-Man Choi, but I'm not. I like G-Man. I think he's a great locker room presence, but I'd rather have Austin Meadows bat in the lineup than G-Man's.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. I think, G-Man Choi's been great for the Rays, but he did just sign an extension, though, like a 1-year extension. So
the 1-year deal.
It's tough. I know he's been, working on his yoga a bit this offseason. I've seen some pictures and videos and stuff, but, so we should see him, do some more splits in the future. But I think he's still not that good of a defender, and I think Austin Meadows could be just as good, with a better bat. So, yeah, I think maybe Ji-Man Choi gets moved, but we'll see. Nobody can do anything right now.
Exactly, and that's kind of that's why I like these conversations, because we can just talk about what we would do or what we think they should do,
right.
and there's literally no movement going on anywhere in the MLB right now. They're not even remotely talking about the stuff that we're talking about, so it's kind of interesting to see different takes on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I think that's just about everything I have on Austin Meadows. If you have any questions, I had some extra stats, but they weren't as important, so I'm just gonna kind of leave those out, I guess.
I think I pretty much kind of just asked them as we were going. Mostly, I just so I know that we went over what I think Brandon Lowe could do in 2022, but what do you picture as the ideal season for Meds going into next year?
Just hit the ball over the wall, because there's nobody in the stands that can legally defend the ball, so nobody's allowed to catch it and it being out. So just hit a home run every time, and you don't have to worry about the batting average on balls in play anymore. And yeah, honestly, I really just want to see him try to hit a home run every single time or take a walk. So it's going to be, he has good bat-to-ball skills, so it might not be too bad, but I think it's going to be a 3 true outcome type season for Meadows, where he's either, walking maybe upwards of 12% of the time, striking out probably 20 to 25% of the time, and then hitting a lot of home runs and doubles off the wall. So yeah, if he would listen to me, I would just tell him to swing for the fences every time, but he's probably not going to listen to me. So I just hope, the coaching staff, tries to get him to do that.
Hey, who knows? He might be one of our listeners, and if you are, Austin, you are more than welcome to just take Mr. Ben's advice. I promise you, it's worth listening to.
He doesn't even have to hit line drives. He doesn't have to make great contact. Just hit the ball
hard,
really, really high, and pull it down the line, and something good is going to happen. So, yeah, I guess that's it, though, for Meadows.
I like it, I couldn't agree with you more on all of your statistics and your looks on the things, and I'm just excited for what he can do next year.
Yeah, so I guess that just about wraps it up. If anybody has any players you want us to cover in the future, we're going to get through everybody, obviously, but if there's someone you're dying to hear me, word vomit numbers about for 20 minutes, let us know. We're on Twitter, Facebook. I post our stuff on Reddit if you haven't seen that. So, don't forget to... we got our shop at shop.RBLR Sports. We got T-shirts. It would probably make a great Christmas gift, Worst case scenario, you could use it as wrapping paper, but just buy it. It'd be pretty cool. Help us out.
It's going to be a little late for Christmas, but call it a late Christmas gift. Call it a late Christmas gift, and I promise you no one's going to complain about it. They're going to love them. They're awesome shirts.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're probably going to get, some gift cards for Christmas, whatever.
Yep.
Turn those gift cards into things you can wear, because you can't wear a gift card, but you can wear a shirt. And we've got, all these cool designs. We've got all of our team colors for the Tampa Bay market. We have that cool, 2022 MVP shirt where it's just, the blank face from, the MLB players are using for the lockout right now. You can use promo code FLAPPY for 10% off your order. That's FLAPPY, FALPPY. Just want to make sure we spell that correctly, because I know I'm not great at spelling, so I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you may have just spelled it wrong right there.
FLA.
You said FAO.
FAL. Okay, yeah. Don't put in FALPY. Put in FLAPPY, please. I'm a language arts teacher, so I should probably be a little bit better, but that's okay. Spelling it doesn't matter. So yeah, our link will be in the description though for our shop. So again, don't forget to check out all of our stuff on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts. Sorry, we're putting more stuff on YouTube. We're eventually going to do video episodes. I think we mentioned that before though.
Yeah,
and of course follow us on
face.
social. Yeah, I'll have to shave, put on a shirt. I still won't wear deodorant though. So.
Thank God we don't. No need for deodorant, right?
All right, so I guess that's just about it. Did I miss anything there?
No, I mean we didn't. We want to wish you guys. Obviously, tomorrow is Christmas. We want to wish you guys Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you guys are celebrating. We appreciate you guys listening. Ben, it was awesome to have you back, man. We missed you last week, so
yeah, it was good to be back.
Go Rays and Merry Christmas, guys.
Yep, go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.